The Prelude by William Wordsworth. Themes, Summary, Important Points. Hello and welcome to the Discourse. The Prelude, or Growth of a Poet's Mind, an autobiographical poem, is a 14-volume epic-length poem by William Wordsworth, written in unrhymed iambic pentameter or blank verse. Wordsworth began writing the poem in 1799 and it was completed in 1805. However, it remained unpublished. Wordsworth did not give any title to this poem, rather preferred calling it the poem to Coleridge. In 1850, after his death, his widow Mary Hutchinson gave the title The Prelude and it was published posthumously 3 months after Wordsworth died in 1850. The Prelude as a Manifesto of Romanticism. The Prelude details the growth of the poet's mind and ideas. The poem contrasts the beauty and solace found in nature with the disappointments and frustrations of society. It traces Wordsworth's life from his childhood in the Lake District, highlighting formative experiences that influenced his poetic development, to his reflections on adulthood and the creative process. It is considered a seminal work of Romanticism, demonstrating a deep connection between humanity and nature and emphasizing the subjective experience of the individual. The Prelude also expresses impatience with the Enlightenment era faith in reason over emotion, arguing that true reason is based on imagination rather than cool detachment. This poem also explores political justice and tyranny regarding the French Revolution. It is often considered a manifesto of the Romantic movement from many different angles. The rejection of Enlightenment attitudes, the defense of nature in the face of industrialization, the importance of transcendence and emotion, the influence of childhood throughout life, and the moral necessity of radical politics. The Prelude is a first-person narrative poem largely addressed to Wordsworth's friend Samuel Taylor Coleridge. The poem was intended as the prologue to a long 3-part epic and philosophical poem, The Recluse. The Prelude and the French Revolution. Wordsworth spent significant time in France during the French Revolution. Wordsworth's experience with the French Revolution profoundly shaped his poetic vision and remains a key theme in the Prelude. Initially, Wordsworth was enthusiastic about the Revolution's ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity. He witnessed revolutionary events firsthand during his time in France, and this experience deeply influenced his early poetic development. However, as the revolution descended into violence and the reign of terror, his views shifted. The poem charts this evolution, showcasing the disillusionment and loss of idealism that Wordsworth felt as the revolution's promise gave way to brutality. This disillusionment is reflected in the poem's shift in tone and focus. While the early sections of the Prelude are imbued with a sense of optimism and revolutionary fervor, later sections reflect a more somber and introspective tone, grappling with the complexities of political upheaval and the darker aspects of human nature. The impact of the French Revolution on Wordsworth is evident not only in the poem's thematic content but also in its structure and style. The poem's autobiographical nature allows Wordsworth to explore his personal journey through the revolution, reflecting on its impact on his own beliefs and values. This personal reflection, coupled with the broader historical context of the revolution, makes the Prelude a rich and complex exploration of the ideals and realities of revolutionary change. Intentions behind the Prelude and the Recluse. Initially, William Wordsworth and his friend Samuel Taylor Coleridge planned to write an epic in blank verse. Wordsworth began to write the introductory part to The Recluse in 1798, but never completed the work, which was supposed to have 3 parts. William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge were hugely inspired by John Milton's magnum opus Paradise Lost. However, they considered it a work of Enlightenment, neoclassical era, and wished to produce a work that may surpass the length and philosophical depth of Milton's Paradise Lost. In Book 1 of the Prelude, Wordsworth mentions Paradise Lost and says that Milton rewrote God's creation and the fall of man in Paradise Lost to justify the ways of God to man. However, he chooses his own mind and imagination as a subject worthy of epic. Coleridge encouraged Wordsworth to write about his experiences in France in a letter to him in 1799, in which he said, "I wish you would write a poem in blank verse addressed to those who, in consequence of the complete failure of the French Revolution, have thrown up all hopes of amelioration of mankind, and are sinking into an almost Epicurean selfishness, disguising the same under the soft titles of domestic attachment and contempt for visionary philosophies. It would do great good, and might form a part of The Recluse." Another important theme of the poem was to establish the ideals of Romanticism. The 14 volumes of the Prelude. Book 1 is titled Introduction, Childhood and School Time. The book begins with lines, "Oh, there is blessing in this gentle breeze, a visitant that while it fans my cheek, doth seem half conscious of the joy it brings from the green fields and from yon azure sky." Wordsworth began writing the Prelude in 1798 when he was 28 years old. The poem begins as he returns from the busy city of London to the rural area of idyllic Lake District where Wordsworth grew up. He is relieved and thrilled, even comparing the crowded city to a place of captivity. He argues that nature, having been established as an important part of his life early on, remains an ever-present element of his work and worldview. Thus, Wordsworth advances a typically romantic idea that an individual's childhood influences and experiences continue to shape them throughout their lives. In line 181 of Book 1, Wordsworth mentions John Milton and Paradise Lost. The speaker continues to reminisce about his childhood experiences and mentions many of his explorations. One such excerpt mentioned in Book 1 is that of boat stealing, an especially intense memory. The speaker recalls he stole a small boat and steered it beneath some massive rock formations. These formations affected him deeply, inspiring awe, horror, and curiosity long after he returned the boat to its owner. Wordsworth uses personification to describe nature, referring to it as her or she to allude to the idea of Mother Nature. Book 2 is titled School Time Continued. In Book 2, Wordsworth describes nature as a benevolent but extremely powerful force. He advances the pantheistic idea that God and nature are inseparable. Book 3 is titled Residence at Cambridge. In Book 3, Wordsworth reflects on his days as a student at the Cambridge University. The speaker leaves home to attend Cambridge. He experiences a degree of culture shock as separated from the rustic surroundings of his childhood. He confronts an atmosphere of pretension and inauthenticity. At the same time, he is thrilled to be in a place that once was home to his heroes, including poets like John Milton. Book 4 is titled Summer Vacation. The speaker returns home from Cambridge for summer vacation, re-encountering the beloved landscape of his youth through newly appreciative and yet newly distant eyes. This book also contains a famous scene in which the speaker encounters a sickly soldier and helps him to shelter for the night. Book 5 is titled Books, in which Wordsworth discusses the importance of books and arts in human life. The speaker laments at the ephemerality of mankind's great works of art when compared to the immortality of nature. The speaker is severely distressed by this mismatch, but also argues that books and poetry are one of the most suitable ways for people to express the strong emotions that nature can induce. Book 6 is titled Cambridge and the Alps. The speaker quickly describes the end of his years at Cambridge and introduces two important characters. One is his sister Dorothy and the other is Samuel Taylor Coleridge, to whom the book is addressed. For the first time, Wordsworth directly alludes to Coleridge's role as his intended audience. The speaker then describes a walking tour of the French Alps, which took place at the peak of the Revolution and was full of joyful celebration. Book 7 is titled Residence in London. The speaker discusses a period when he was living in London. He found certain elements of London exciting, but was distressed by the city's crowdedness, anonymity, and distance from nature. Book 8 is titled Retrospect, Love of Nature Leading to Love of Man. In this part, Wordsworth mentions the importance of sweet memories of the past. The speaker looks back and explains in more detail how an early exposure to nature shaped his poetic sensibilities, and how the harsh landscapes of Britain offer a certain inspiration distinct from the pleasant, warm nature of the Mediterranean. Books 9, 10, and 11 are titled Residence in France, Residence in France Continued, and again Residence in France Continued. In Book 9, the speaker discusses his days in France, where he befriended a pro-revolution soldier and witnessed first-hand the injustices that led to the overturning of the monarchy. He recounts the story of a young couple torn apart by the social conservatism and hierarchy of the pre-revolution France. In Book 10, he discusses the radical phase of the French Revolution, denouncing the violence of Robespierre and his allies, and remembering fondly the moment when he learned that Robespierre had died. In Book 10, the speaker describes how his political disillusionment led him to mistakenly embrace an overly skeptical, self-satisfied rationalist philosophy that he now renounces. He also mentions that his friend Coleridge is ill and has gone to Italy, where he is spending time to rehabilitate his health. Book 12 is titled Imagination and Taste, How Impaired and Restored. In this book, Wordsworth gives the idea of spots of time. He returns from France and tries to regain his usual self after the trauma that he faced while witnessing the violence of the French Revolution. There are in our existence spots of time that, with distinct preeminence, retained, a renovating virtue whence depressed by false opinion and contentious thought. Wordsworth uses spots of time to describe moments from childhood that are captured in memory. He believed that these moments are important because they can help people resist false opinions and contentious thoughts. Wordsworth describes spots of time as specific significant moments in life that stand out due to their emotional or spiritual impact. These moments are often tied to nature and personal experiences. He suggests that these moments possess a renovating virtue, meaning they have the power to uplift and rejuvenate the spirit, especially during times of distress or confusion. These moments are marked by their clarity and importance, often providing insight or a sense of peace. Wordsworth suggests that spots of time are pivotal moments that hold deep meaning and transformative power in his life and poetry. They serve as reminders of the beauty and complexity of human experience. Book 13 is titled Imagination and Taste, How Impaired and Restored Concluded, in which the speaker continues to discuss the importance of spots of time and how he recovered his connection with nature and his lively imagination after he flirted with severe rationalism in France. It recounts the speaker's return to the rural areas where he grew up, which enabled this recovery of imaginative power. The final chapter of Book 14 is titled Conclusion, in which the speaker articulates a philosophy of love in which the love of individual people and universal divine love work in conjunction. He also acknowledges the inspiration and help provided by his sister Dorothy and his dear friend S.T. Coleridge. Wordsworth concludes the book with the hope that his poem will stand the test of time and that its writing will prove to have been justified. So this is it for today. We will continue to discuss the history of English literature. Please stay connected with the discourse. Thanks and regards.